We talking all things wrestling. Of course, as we know, WrestleMania
Oh,
39
yeah.
went Hollywood a couple weeks ago, and man, there was a lot of intrigue around this card. There was a lot of great, spectacular matches. It was really a two-night extravaganza, like WrestleMania has really turned into. Before we get into some of the specifics of the card, just your overall thoughts of the whole weekend.
To hear Triple H's press conference after the event, and he talked about the highest gate that they ever had. But, I'm thinking everything's super expensive out in California.
Yeah.
So it probably, the numbers are going to be inflated, it seems, for that. But what a beautiful venue to have the event inside. And, you have Hollywood right there, right? So
Yeah.
you can have Snoop Dogg be a part of that and intermingle with our Northeast Ohio zone,
The Miz.
The Miz, Mizanin, the host of WrestleMania this year. So yeah, it's always a fun event. I love it. I mean, but like I said, Masters, Final Four, WrestleMania, there's the traffic. April's, my birthday was this week. I got my wedding anniversary this week. I have so many friends and family. My boss I work for, his birthday. So many birthdays. Every day in April for me is I love it. And to have 2 nights of WrestleMania now too, that has been a great thing that I hope never ever changes.
James, I said the same thing when they first did it. It's something like when you first hear it, you're like, what? You're gonna do 2 nights of WrestleMania? But it all feels normal now. Like just it feels like to me like it should be 2 nights. And I think just because of the roster they add and because of the stories, like you can separate certain matches from certain nights, and I think it all worked out perfectly this year with the Bloodline. By the way, I called it on this podcast when I made my booking predictions. I said it. I said the Usos were going to lose night 1, and I said Roman and the undisputed Universal Champion, the Tribal Chief, was going to retain the Universal Championship, I believe, over Cody Rhodes. I see you giving me the thumbs down there. Your thoughts on Roman heading now seemingly to 1,000 days as the undisputed Universal Champion?
It's been a great run. They bring in Michael Cole's great at announcing all the numbers and how many days and comparing them to the history of all the other wrestlers that's held the title for long periods of time. But, I'm ready for it to end. I would say probably my favorite match was definitely the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus the Usos. They did an absolute great job. Sami Zayn's storyline leading up to the event was fantastic. They couldn't have did a better job with him. The first time, I'll tell you, Brandon, the first time I ever saw Zayn wrestle was at NXT, and it was a main event with Finn Balor. And at that point, I was not really engaged with any NXT at all. Like to me, it felt like wrestling was getting to the point where, like when baseball cards went tops Donruss Fleer and then Upper Deck jumped in.
Okay.
And then you had, let's do Top Stadium Club. You had all these different. Now they started to water it down. I kind of felt that with wrestling a little bit, where, like, my gosh, how many shows can they have, right? So I didn't really get into NXT, but that particular event that I watched, and I'm like, wow, these guys are doing an absolutely great job. These guys aren't on Mondays. They're not on Fridays. So I really got turned on to what those guys could do, especially Sami Zayn, and that storyline and the victory for him and Kevin Owens, and them being friends for so long, the Canadian connection. There's so many fantastic wrestlers that came out of Canada, and I hope they have a long run as tag champs.
Yeah, going back to your point, I was going to ask you this because you mentioned something that came across my mind actually just the other day, thinking out loud, and that is the fact of how much wrestling we have now in today's society. If you combine WWE and AEW currently, and of course AEW now, it's rumored they're going to get another Saturday show potentially on TNT in prime time. If you go through it, if you even include TNA and Ring of Honor and some of these other
Yes.
promotions that we
New
have,
Japan. I
New
love New
Japan as
Japan.
well. Like James. So I'm going to tell you up front, I am a very casual wrestling fan, if you will. I don't watch a lot of AEW. I don't watch NXT at all. I don't watch any of these, outside promotions. I mostly just watch Raw, SmackDown, and the main premium live events because I just don't feel like between wrestling and the other sports and the other things that have going on, I just don't have time to keep up with it all. Is it?
Yeah.
I'm glad for the talent. There are so many options out there now, and there are so many good pro wrestlers in today's world. But if you have, let's say Raw on Monday, NXT on Tuesday, Dynamite on Wednesday, ROH and Impact on Thursday, SmackDown and Rampage on Friday, AEW's new show, any WWE event on Saturday, NXT pay-per-view, AEW pay-per-view on Sunday. At what point are we getting to too much overexposure in the realm of professional wrestling?
No, you're exactly right. It's just so much. You need that day off, or what used to be almost a week off,
Yeah,
or at least 3 days off. When it was SmackDown used to be on Thursdays.
Yeah, the crazy thing to me, James, is like, so obviously we went from, what was it, SmackDown Friday, right after that was the Hall of Fame, and then it was 2 nights of WrestleMania, and then Raw the next Monday. By the end of Raw, which was a whole different story because of the reports of the backstage cast and everything that happened with that show. But by the end of Raw that night, I was like, dude, thank God there's like NXT was on tomorrow. But I was like, thank God I'm not watching wrestling tomorrow night. Like, I need a couple days off. So I don't know. I feel like it hurts both companies because you're just like, I gotta choose what I want to watch.
Well, if you remember when AEW started, they said, we're not competing against the WWE. We're trying to be the best model of what AEW is. But you know deep down, right? Because they've added so many WWE guys that there's still some, I would say, friendly competition. But I like how they're handling their talent. I think the promoting side, it can get better. Like, I'm looking forward to this event at Wembley Stadium in the UK. Selling that place out. Love to see Will Ospreay come back, who's dipped his toes in the AEW waters a little bit, but very popular in New Japan. And when I saw that guy in New Japan, I was blown away when he was wrestling Ricochet over there. Or I can't remember if he had Kenny Omega matches or not. But the New Japan, when I used to watch that on Access TV, was super impressive of what those guys do with their events. So for Cody Rhodes to go over there after he left WWE, go over there and wrestle in other different companies as well, but to build what he built with the guys that he built with the Young Bucks, with Omega and those guys creating AEW, thank you. There's nothing more he can do in the ring. I mean, yes, he's going to eventually win WWE title. He's going to finish what he started and what he wanted to do to accomplish his dream, make his dad proud, to make his brother proud, his wife. But he'll finish that. But what he did to create another large company and we know that they do slightly compete with each other, right? Could there ever be a pay-per-view where WWE and AEW actually?
There's no chance.
Could it ever happen? No. Well, who knows with the new ownership with WWE?
There's no chance because I personally feel like on the WWE side, they're like, why should we work with them, right?
Right.
Like, why should we get eyeballs on their product when they're our main competition, and seemingly both companies take shots at each other back and forth almost every single day.
Yeah, I mean, considering the cash grabs that WWE's did in the past, going over to Saudi Arabia,
with Saudi Arabia and all that,
that don't get me wrong, I've watched some of the events. Do I wish they would have did that? Not necessarily. Just based on the politics and stuff that go on outside of entertainment within Saudi Arabia.
I completely agree with you there. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we all know what happens over there. Yeah, we're all watching the shows. And some of them were bad and some of them were good.
Oh, the bringing Goldberg out of whatever his, if you want to even call it retirement,
Dude,
he had a horrible match over there. Shawn Michaels, bald headed Shawn Michaels
oh,
coming out. That he's lucky he didn't break his neck. You don't want to see things like that for these
no.
guys. These guys live in your head as legends. You can go on Peacock, watch all their, their best matches and old WrestleManias, old pay-per-views, old Saturday nights main events. And, we don't need those guys. There's enough talent in professional wrestling, even with our local OCW that Believe Land Media supports.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are just trying to make it in the business that I'm happy that I got to be a part of during one of the events here in Akron to see what these guys are going through to try to make it. Because there's it's a tough toll on the body, the travel, the amount of money that they put into their the pictures, trying to do autograph pictures and selling their merch and packing it up. And, they set the rings up prior to the events. They tear them down at the end of the night. So it's fun to see the stuff going on at WrestleMania, but it's also great to see what goes on in the indies to understand what guys do to get to those WrestleMania moments. Yes, some other people take shortcuts. Logan Paul,
Yeah.
he's,
But I mean, he's only had 4 matches. All
right.
4 of them have been absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, and he's did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people there that feel like he's cutting the line.
Well, and then there's guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that worked 20 years and barely get a championship opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, I completely agree with you. And I know both of us are planning, and I know you specifically thinking about going to WrestleMania 40, obviously next year in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which will be the first WrestleMania technically under the new ownership of WWE. I'm very interested to see, when this thing sort of actually happens with UFC and WWE merging in the new company, how different it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be different. There might be new sponsorship. Obviously, I think we're all hoping that Triple H stays as the main content creator, but who the hell knows what's happening with that nowadays? Like I told you at the start of it, it's very interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens a year down the road, because it feels like we are in a time in wrestling that I would never thought we'd be in.
Yeah, I'll be curious to find out whether or not, how many changes there are with Vince being gone. He sent out a letter this week to the talent saying that, Triple H is running creative. But he's the top dog. He's the guy making the decisions. Vince is not trying to manipulate that, but who knows, right? Because it's his father-in-law, for crying out loud. Just, you can give him a call and see what he thinks, right? Because Vince took something, that was his father's and absolutely built an empire. And we're thankful for it because of the amount of entertainment he's put out there. If you look at, you want to talk about WrestleMania being in Hollywood, pro wrestling's been in Hollywood for how long now?
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
with Hulk Hogan, right. Hulk Hogan getting in Thunder in Paradise and then getting in movies with Zeus when he fought Zeus. And gosh, I'm trying to remember the movie he was in for that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't.
I think his first name was Rip.
It was before my time.
But yes, there were so many guys getting involved with the Miz doing a lot of different things now. Heck, just saw
Cena, Rock.
Yes, some of the top stars are WWE guys.
Yeah.
Hell, look at our previous president. He was technically a WWE Hall of Famer.
He is a
sitting
WWE
in the
Hall of Famer. And I mean, who else? Kid Rock, and wrestling.
Pete Rose.
Yeah, Pete Rose too, right? I mean, a pop culture phenomenon. Out of all the sports, and if you want to call wrestling a sport or not, I will not debate that with you. I don't care if you do or not. But out of all the, baseball, basketball, wrestling, football, you can make an argument. Wrestling gives you the most. Wow, like giving us so many moments, right? There's only so many Super Bowl moments we remember. There's only so many, great NBA final series. There's only so many great World Series. Wrestling, it's like every time you turn on a wrestling match or a wrestling event, you have the opportunity to see something special. Not only that, but James, I know you will know this. Wrestling and baseball kind of fits this mold as well, but not as much as wrestling. Wrestling is completely different live than on TV. If you've never
Yes.
seen wrestling live, if you don't
You
like it on TV, fine. Go see it live. You will
yes.
fall in love with it. It's hard to not go to a wrestling event and enjoy it, whatever it
Because you
is.
need to see what happens before the matches when you have dark matches. You need to see what happens between commercials on what they're doing. And it's not, anybody out there that hasn't attended an event, if you have not been to an event, go to a house show. I took my daughters probably 5 years ago to a house show, and the first match, Jeff Hardy comes out, does his thing, and we're sitting on the aisle, like the first 1, 2, and
Yeah.
3 seats as soon as they come down the ramp. And it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
a smaller
Yeah.
stage, but they came right over, and I have video of it. Jeff Hardy came over, high-fived my daughter. That's what started the show. And you can catch some of the wrestlers in the parking lot afterward, say hi, they'll come over, maybe sign something, get a picture. So don't think that you have to go to a pay-per-view or you have to go to a Raw or SmackDown to have a good time at the events.
You like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.